I will give somewhat of an introduction to myself, because I do know that lots of people were not present in the 1970s and 1980s when I first became an activist. Perhaps I don't want to say everything, but I will say that if you are aware of Spare Rib, which was a feminist magazine, I am proud to say that I became the first black woman to join the collective. I was employed as their finance officer. My background was then a bloody tax officer. But somebody's got to do it. But having gone there and listening to the debates and discussions while I'm counting up the figures and such like, I did realise that there were the issues that were pertinent to black women, and they were being ignored, or, if in some senses worse, my very sweet, lovely, feminist, white lesbian, like feminists, knew bugger all about the reality of the lives of black and ethnic minority women. And so I did raise my hand, and I apologise, by the way, that there are young people present and I shouldn't swear. And I mean it. I'll try not to swear. It's not compulsory. So I was active on the collective and started encouraging stories about the lives of black women rather than white women who were going on holiday. They actually would write to say, I'm going to be in Latin America for 6 weeks. May I write a story and to submit it? And the answer from me was, I'm sorry, no. If you're in Latin America, please make connections with us so that Latin American women can speak for themselves. And yes, we will pay for translations. It doesn't have to be you writing in English. So that was, I suppose, the beginning of my overall awareness in what was the women's liberation movement, that women as a category, and I am still committed to women as a category of humanity, are the subject of less favourable treatment, which is the legal definition in here and other pieces of law as to women and equality. The categories are recently have been added to, but in addition to women, recently, sorry, my memories, I have a medical condition, I'm trying to remember the, sorry, it's gender reassignment. Those who are or have been in the process of gender reassignment are protected by these laws. I uphold that. It doesn't matter what I think about the law or this law or any other law, they are the law. And I have not, and I do not intend to break the law. It's another matter, however, if the law is changed and I don't approve of it, I will do as I did with the what we call the poll tax. I didn't pay it, and I was willing to go to prison. And there are other things of that nature in which I will take cognizance of the law and not comply with it if I think it is not in the interests of not only myself but others. Particularly strikes me that some of the discussion has come through a recognition of trans within the LGBT community. I have supported that, but when we get to a position in which the lesbians have been taken out of LGBT, I will continue to argue in favour of lesbians, not against any other group, but we have been and are being excluded. So freedom of speech requires me to express my view. The distortions that I have seen, and I frankly have to wonder whether the distortions would have happened had I been white. Maybe I wasn't speaking English clearly enough. But the version and the notice I have of what was said by me at a meeting is not the same as that which is reported to have been said. And the legal case against me was thrown out because there was no evidence that somebody who thought that I had said certain words, which I'm sure I said it in English, maybe it was in Yoruba, maybe I was not speaking English, but I believe I was, and I think the evidence shows I was. I did not say what was I was alleged to have said. I was responding to something that happened 3 or 4 weeks previously. Maria McLachlan had been hit. As far as I'm aware, the only person who has been violently attacked in this very painful process of discussing, I say in inverted commas, considering the changes to the law, has been by what I thought were 2 young men. They've subsequently identified as trans, but I didn't know that at the time. I said something about if that, it said it very clearly, everybody recognizes, I said if I were attacked, I would defend myself. Not accidentally. I learnt to defend myself in the 1950s when there were only 30,000 black people in the UK, and I was one of them. Only as a little child, I was one of them. My brother, funnily enough a boy, 2 years younger than me, was frequently attacked. In my presence, I would step forward. I didn't have to take off my glasses in those days. I was short-sighted, but I didn't have glasses. I had to defend myself often, and I'm not talking about children my own age, I'm talking about teenagers who would come and beat up a little boy and me somewhat bigger. It's not funny. It's not a laugh. I didn't enjoy it, but I learnt to do it. And what's more, these days I tend to do it verbally. And if I were physically threatened, I would defend myself. That does not mean I have the right to attack somebody. I do not, I have never advocated, and I never will. But I promise you, if somebody physically attacks me, despite the fact I am 68 years old and have a number of medical conditions, I will still defend myself, and I will defend a vulnerable person in my presence. And for that, I have been accused of causing a threat to some people. I assume not all trans people would say that, but it has been said. I have been disinvited to a university to speak at the university. I have been disinvited and abused in all kinds of ways. And what have I done? What I've done is seek to defend the rights, particularly of lesbians, to be lesbians. How is it that LGBT has dropped the L? Is it right? Fine, if it's right, then we will move away, and if gay men wish to say something about themselves, they haven't been very they haven't sounded out a lot recently. I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. So bisexual people who I have worked with have expressed a reticence about simply being out because they expect and often do receive criticism from all sides. So, LGBT. So we get silenced. Bisexuals don't often publicly acknowledge their bisexuality, and certainly not in any kind of political way. Trans has grown, and I personally have been a party to supporting and encouraging the inclusion of trans people. Certainly I did when I worked with the chair of the committee, the LGBT committee, working with the Metropolitan Police in 2000, the year 2000, and I was on it until 2003. I have a track record of being inclusive, but it has changed since the government was minded to make amendments to law. And those amendments would, in my view and the view of many other women and certainly many other lesbians, be detrimental to our well-being. I do not wish harm to any trans person. What I will say, however, is that their asserting their rights will not be at the expense of lesbians or all women. I will fight. I will continue to fight, and when I say fight, in the manner that I have done for 30 or more years, on paper, in speeches, but not in any other means. I'm saying it, I continue to say it, and I have done it, that's the point. It's not that I'm merely saying something after the fact, that I have not been violent. I sometimes feel violence, as many human beings do. But I have the self-control, and I'm going to use a horrible word, but I am treated like a nigger. And lots of black people are, that if we are doing something wrong, it is okay in Britain for 7 police officers to jump on an unarmed black man, or in America for that black man to be shot by not one but several police officers because they represent a threat. I feel the same about how I and other people who speak out against the removal of lesbians from the agenda. I feel that I am particularly targeted because I do speak out and I'm black, and I must therefore be a physical threat, as all of us are seen to be physical threats. I don't want to say much more. There are many questions you will have and contributions, and I want to leave my sister to follow me. So thank you.